Welcome to Local Everywhere. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is Sharon Lochman. Um, this is Sharon, I'm sorry, Lochman Cassano.
Cassano Lochman.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And Sharon and I are going to talk about the books that she has written. So good morning, Sharon. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm very good, thank you. And how are you today?
Good, good, good. So tell us a little bit about your writing.
Okay, well, I did not know that I was going to be a writer. I'd had writing nudges throughout my life, and I quickly dismissed them because, I didn't find myself to be an English scholar or anything of that nature. And I thought, well, I would start to write, and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not a writer. And then it was towards the end of 2012, I experienced the dark night of my soul when it wasn't the worst thing that ever happened in my life, but it was sort of like the last straw of a long existence of issues. And I just wanted to give up. And I wanted to give up. And I actually found myself in a place where I was asking, God, or whoever you talk to, I talked to God for help. And help came in the form of writing. And it started actually with night writing. I would get up in the middle of the night, I'd write in my sleep. And in the morning, I would sit down and I would look at what I had written. I'd put it in the computer, and all these beautiful verses were coming through, and I didn't know what was happening. And I ended up writing about 500 of those verses. And those were all messages from my higher self to myself, encouraging me, reminding me of my place on the planet. And then I started sharing them with others. And that's how my writing journey began. It went from the spiritual verses through to all of my other books and all my other publications, into my publishing process, and so on and so forth. And what I had discovered was that everyone has a story to tell. Maybe not everyone is going to be an award-winning writer, but everyone can write. Because if you can speak, you can write, and everyone has a story, and there are so many really awesome stories out there to be told. And so I developed a free writing webinar that I offer to women to release their inner voice, to teach them how to get into that meditative state, that prayerful place where they can sit and just write their story, whatever their story is that needs to be told.
So over the years, as you've talked to the women, you must have had experienced a number of interesting conversations, right?
Right. Sometimes, people are a little unsure of my process. I teach how to write in a non-traditional way. I teach how to write, how to tap in with your higher self and let the words flow. The story is written, it just needs to come through. And I don't teach to write by an outline. And so it's a very creative process, and people are a little, leery about it. We write on large pads of unlined paper so that they can just move freely without any idea what they're going to write. I put them in a place of calmness and peace, and maybe I'll start them with a couple scenarios of where they're sitting, and then I get them going and the ball rolling. And always at the end, women are just amazed. Some are in tears because a memory came through that they had buried, or it could have been a traumatic event, or it could have been a really positive event. It could have been an embrace from a grandmother, or a special place in their childhood that they revisited. And sometimes there are fictional stories that come through all over the place.
So, you say you have people get into their inner self for peace.
Mm-hmm.
And then write. You're
Mm-hmm.
talking about two big hurdles. It's difficult to go from the state that a person is in to a calm and peaceful place, right?
Absolutely. So that's why we take a few minutes out. I'll have everybody close their eyes, and breathe in and breathe out. We do it on Zoom. They can turn off their camera if they're not comfortable being in front of the camera. And then they just breathe in, breathe out. And then I'll start with maybe a 1-minute writing I'll pose a question and then have them write the response. I'll time it for 1 hour. They write as fast as they can without stopping to think, because when we stop to think, we put up the hurdles like, oh, this is going to be crazy. This is stupid. So they're not going to have to share what they've written. They don't have to talk about it. It's just to get them in the place. And I go through a series of these and they keep getting longer and longer. And the last one then is 15 minutes where they're actually sitting and writing frantically for 15 minutes. And that's when they're shocked at the end because they did not know they could do it. It's so easy to get into that place, but you have to allow yourself to be there. And once you get into that calm place, you can use it throughout your day with, not just with writing, but, life has a way of things happening and the ups and downs of life. And if you just get to that peaceful place, just sit there and take a couple deep breaths and ground yourself and just let it all go. And then let it flow, let life flow.
So, that's one hurdle, and the other hurdle is writing. I'm sure people have said to you, I can't write. I don't know how to do something like that. What do you tell them?
I tell them you absolutely can, because if you can speak and tell a story, you can write. So when we're writing in this way, this is not a finished product. This is the creative part of the process. So I tell them they have to write as fast as they can write without stopping, without slowing down. Just let the pen go. And if they come to a roadblock, just to do circles, 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 lines of circles, and then it will kick in. I guarantee it will kick in. And then just write about it. If something comes through and it's a character or it's a fictional story and you don't have a name, don't say, oh, I don't have a name. Use a letter as a placeholder, because later, if you want to go back and revise, if you choose to, you can always go back and make those revisions later. But a lot of times this initial process it's a clearing. It's just to shake it off and get it going. Because if you are not writing in this way, most people don't ever write in this way. It's sort of like a little squeaky wheel, and it might take a couple of tries or a lot of tries to get it going. And so we keep working at it and working. And then before you know it, you'll be writing like you'll be in the shower and a story will come through. You have to get out of the shower and start writing frantically and just get the ideas down when they come through. So it's sort of like when you write on a big piece of paper. Like I could give you a semi-load truckload of these little Post-it notes for free. Deliver them to your house, Cynthia. They're coming. They'll be there tomorrow. There you go. Write your book on there. Right. Go ahead. Start writing on there. And you'll be like, I'm giving you all the paper. I'll even send a pen. I'll give you a pen and these little Post-it notes, and you can start writing. We'd be like, I can't write on these little papers. How could I do this? Well, that's sort of like what it is for your higher self. Like there's so much that your higher self wants you to write or tell or speak or share your story. There's so much in you to share with the world. And you can't do it on this little paper. It's so confining. You need something big and broad that you can write the expanse and on the back and upside down or wherever you need to go and freely do it. And then later, after you've got all that out, then you can go put in your computer and do your revisions if you choose to. But sometimes it's just the process of releasing that inner voice that many of us, especially women, we've had that voice stifled through generations, through society or family or school, dictations to women when we were younger, sit and be quiet. I remember that. A girl is supposed to sit quietly with your legs together on the edge of the couch and sit quietly. Well, how exciting is life that way? How could you be creative when you're told to sit stiffly and don't speak unless you're spoken to, and bury those feelings or bury that experience, or don't tell anybody about that? Well, sometimes those stories need to be told. Maybe they don't need to be shared publicly, but maybe they need to be put down on paper and released, or maybe they need to be shared with family. And that's the process. So when I found my voice, my writing voice, I actually found I could help other women do the same.
You also consult with men?
I do. They have a little more difficulty with the process because they're more rigid and more mechanical with how they want to do it. But yes, men can write this way as well. Yep.
Do you find it's easier to mentor women than men?
I prefer myself to work with women. I have mentored many men on how to publish their book and help them through the process of publishing and marketing their book. But with the women with the writing, especially when it's the webinar where they're first releasing their inner voice, I find that it's women are more comfortable to share with other women. It's a safe environment. And so that's my preference. And I'm more comfortable, I'm more open when I'm in a group of women, sisterhood kind of thing.
So how many people do you have in your book? You know, those people have shared stories with you.
Right. So there are 2 volumes. If you're speaking about Unfettered Hearts, okay,
Right.
so volume 1, and here's volume 2. I don't countless people. So this is a compilation. There were 4 of us that worked together, for myself and 3 other writer friends. And we had this epiphany, like there's so much negativity in the news, and I had gotten rid of television and stayed away from it, from the news. And it's better for me to be away from all the news. And we're like, you know what? The problem is that it's never anything good on the news. It's only negativity. And there's a lot of, there are a lot of good stories out there. So we set about, took us a couple years we said, you know what? Let's do a book on like Unfettered Hearts, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I, had this intuitive thought that if we just put it out there, the universe is going to bring these people to us. And that's what I did. I started talking to people, anybody. I could talk to a clerk at the grocery store, or a neighbor, or anybody I came across, anyone that was in my path. I would say, I'm working on this book. We're looking for people with extraordinary stories. Do you have a story you'd like to share? And I had one woman, she was, I'm just not comfortable. I don't think my story, I can't write it. I said, I can help you with that. So sometimes some people they dictated their story to one of us, and we wrote it down while they were talking. Other people got other stories came through loved ones. It was maybe the person is deceased. One of the stories in the book came from the memoirs of a woman that, her youth on a farm in the early 1900s in Ohio. And, and her son found this diary of these notes. And I thought it was such a remarkable story. This young woman had put down on paper about life back then, and the family unit and simplicity of life and the joy of life. We put that in the book. Stories came from around the world, from in Greece and other countries. And in Greece, for example, we got the story of this company called Loom, because there was a town that was really struggling with industry. There wasn't any industry, and there were no jobs for the people in town. So this one couple, they had the resources, and they said, what can we do to help bring back life to our community? And they started a loom company, and it's well known all over Greece. And they do the old way of producing things on the old loom, and they do the old Greek patterns, and it's just beautiful. Their story is just amazing. There's so many amazing people out there, amazing stories of triumph and struggle and triumph. And one woman was on a motorcycle accident with her husband, and she almost died. She was in the hospital for a long time, and when she finally came out of the coma, she had no memory of anything or anybody except her time when she said she was in heaven. And she recalled being in heaven, and she recalled coming back to her body. And then when she came out of the coma, she never had a memory of life before. She didn't know her parents, her husband, her children, and she still to this day doesn't have a memory of anything. But she is the happiest person. Like, she came back with only joy, only joy, only joy. She's amazing. And so she wrote the story, and I worked with her. We fine-tuned it, but there are her words, her energy in the story. It's a love story. Her husband would not give up. He wouldn't let her go. And it just beautiful, beautiful story. So many stories, so many people with stories. There's so many more stories out there. And what a wonderful thing if we could, hear them and talk about them and share them. Everybody has a story. I guarantee you, everyone has a story to share of amazing strength, amazing miracles in their life. I'm sure you have one too.
That's why I think the internet is so powerful. I took a look at Tracy's website, and
Mhm.
I saw what you did, so I contacted you. So I think the internet is a really good way to meet other people, share this, like you said, share their stories. So basically, how you just went up to people and say, "Do you have a story?" Is that what you did?
Yes, I said, I'm putting together a book of, ordinary people with extraordinary stories. Would you do have one? Would you like to share it? And that's how the people that I worked with came before me. And the other three women that I worked with, they had their own method of how they contacted people. Some people were, they were in the news, or we tried to contact them, or that way, but they're all amazing stories, like amazing stories. And some people were so moved really to tears to be able to share their story. And then, there's that little bit of uneasiness about, well, I can't write it. I can't write it. And I said, but you can. I'll give you the tools. I'll start you off, or just write it. And and they did. They all came through. In fact, so many stories came through that we ended up having to do 2 volumes. We were only going to do 1, but we ended up having to do 2 volumes. And then we made this beautiful publication. And then it's not just the story, but it's the pictures. It's their picture. It's them. It's their story. It's their words. You know, it there's a husband and wife in here. He had been addicted to drugs, and was, at the end of his rope. He had failed so many attempts to, at these places where he could get sober and stuff. And then he met a woman, and she had had addiction problems, and she had come through, and they clicked, and he went through a program, and they ended up getting married, and now they have a family, and it's now he's helping other people that are in that situation get through to the other side as well. It's a beautiful success story, and it's a love story, and it's their story. So he wrote his story, she wrote her story, and then they wrote their story together as a couple. And very moving, very, very moving.
Now, as you're helping these people write stories and they complete their stories, does it find that it changes your perspective and your way of thinking and your way of life in a way?
It changes my perspective on so many levels. First of all, not everything needs to be written like an encyclopedia or to perfection. It's wonderful to read through the soul of another person. And so, and it's a balancing act, like to be able to produce something and still have their voice shine through. Try to get the commas and the punctuation as good as we can. There are typos in there. That happens. It's going to happen. I know in my story's in here and there's a typo in it. And you know what? I'm okay with that. 10 years ago, I would have been mortified. But you know what? I found, like, if that's what you're looking for when you're reading it, then that's what you're going to find. But if you're looking for the essence of an amazing, incredible journey, then that is what you're going to seek. And it's that way in life as well. It's what you look for is what you're going to find. And if you're going to look for the negative, you're going to find the negative. And if you're going to look for the positive, you're going to see the positive. And so for me, it was, and to be able to see these people that have had no writing experience, willing to step out, go to the edge, face their fears or whatever, and allow this to happen. And what a life lesson for me as well, to be able to step to the edge. And I'm still doing that. We should always do that. Go to the edge and live life to the fullest.
Now, when did you start this again?
When did we start this?
Yes.
It may have been started as early as, let me think, 2017.
Okay.
Or 2018. I can't remember. It's like I let go of those details because they were not, but several years. several years. It was in the making of us getting it together, of reaching out and then, pulling it together and then putting it together. And then the formatting. I mean, we had the title and we had the cover design before we got our first story, because that was important, because that kind of forced us as a team to say, okay, we have the cover designed. We know this is our focus. This is our goal, will be this publication. And it wasn't for us. It was not to make money. We don't make money on this publication. It is to spread these stories and uplift the planet.
So you did a brunt of your work during COVID.
We did it before COVID. We've been working on this for a long time.
Okay. So what other books have you written?
Well, I've written Stranded on Thin Ice. That's an action adventure about two little boys that are stranded on ice. They go out for an ice fishing derby. And it's about compassion and understanding, and also, again, it's finding your inner strength and being able to say, I did it, to survive. And like the stories in Unfettered Hearts, a lot of those stories are survival stories. So it's about these two little boys that are not friends when they go on the ice, and they're kind of forced together and they become friends and have a great adventure. So that is Stranded on Thin Ice. And then I have another novel called Man with the Sand Dollar Face. And that's an adult novel. That's sort of like, it's a mystery, sort of like Agatha Christie kind of mystery. And then I have picture books, a lot of picture books that are available. Hugo Dini Runs Late, Green Toenail Soup and Bat Fuzz, Blink, Blink, Blink and Sink, and Ellie Bott and Aunt Maple.
So sounds like you're a busy lady.
I am.
That's great. It's wonderful that you're able to challenge things that are going on in your life and spin it in a positive fashion, so others can do the same. I think that's really important.
Oh, thank you. It is. It's important to remember, even in our lowest moments, that those will later become our highest moment. And that you have really gotten through to the other side when you can look back at that challenging time and say, wow, I so appreciate that I went through that challenging time. I really appreciate that I was able to experience that, because that is what brought me to where I am.
So have you considered, instead of writing books, have you considered doing like YouTube videos of all the ladies that you've written about?
I have not considered doing that. I have considered doing something maybe in the future with YouTube on a spiritual level. There are a lot of people that are now waking up, spiritually speaking, and they're looking for like the beginning stages of when you when you have your awakening. You're looking for direction, or other people that have gone through a similar experience, or maybe you want to learn how to meditate, and meditation seems to be such a foreign thing, or scary or frightening. And I might consider doing something like that to help with that process.
So if anybody wants to contact you, know more about how they could get involved, or know more about your writings, how could they reach you?
They can reach me at Sharon CassanoLochman.com.
Okay, so thank you, Sharon. You've been listening to Sharon Cassano Lochman, and I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Local Everywhere. And if you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Sharon, it's been wonderful talking with you. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you. Have a good day.